Welcome to Building Toronto's Skyline, a podcast exploring the current state of Toronto's condominium industry from a unique construction perspective through engaging and entertaining podcast interviews with the many stakeholders in the industry. This podcast is brought to you by Fusion Corp, a construction management company. Here's the founder and CEO of Fusion Corp Developments, Inc., and author of Building Toronto's Skyline, the host of this podcast, Nick Ainis.
Well, hello again, everybody. It's nice to see everyone. Mike, how you doing?
Well, Nick, typically you and I are in the same room when we record Building Toronto Skyline, but where are you today?
Well, I'm live from Miami Beach, Florida. So I'm in South Beach, and we're here just to see what after the inauguration of Donald Trump, what the feeling is in the United States and Florida. I'm just joking, but
Well, I was going to ask you, what is the feeling?
We have a friend of the family that's a realtor, and we've been talking about visiting him and seeing if there's a possibility of doing some work out here. Not sure if that's what we're going to do, but just thought I'd venture on down here to see what life is like. So,
well, Nick, before we introduce,
we seem to have brought the cold with us because it's that whole cold front is affecting Florida big time, and it's very cold here in Miami, which is not nice, but it is what it is, and and that's what we're doing. That's what we're here in Miami.
Well, it's like you could read my mind, because before we introduce our esteemed guest, I was going to ask you, so here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, where I'm sitting, it's been a very cold week. Not terribly cold today, but well under zero. And when I think about a Canadian like yourself escaping to Miami, I think like you're going to be on a beach or something, but you had to shovel snow there, didn't you?
No, not quite. But yes, it's very cold in Canada. It's cold here too. But the main points is that when we have very, very cold temperatures in Toronto or in Canada, Ontario, it really affects our construction industry. It is tough to build in this type of weather. So you don't have a very productive week when it's this cold. Some trades don't even show up because it's too cold to work. The exterior trades for sure. Some people working on even people working on the inside. If you have some heat, it's there to supplement it, but it's still not that great for these workers. So we don't like extreme temperatures like this, but they do occur from time to time, and there's not much we can do about it. It's just wait it out. And so I did try to escape the cold, and I ended up just coming to a not as cold place, but it is about, I don't know. It's going to be around close to 20 degrees, maybe, if I'm lucky today.
Oh, no shovel required.
But you feel the cold. You feel the cold. It's cloudy. It's overcast. It's terrible. But anyways, let's get on to Stephen here.
I was going to say, poor Nick in 20 degrees having to suffer. But yeah, please introduce me. Tell me how you learned about this gentleman, Stephen Velasco.
Well, actually, I saw an article on Blog TO. I think, Stephen, you got a lot of articles coming out and people writing about your story and everything like that. And I said he would be an amazing guest to tell us what's happening in Toronto in the near future and the extended future. So we really get a glimpse of where all the development activity is, and I think we just want to understand a lot about that process. We want to see what's happening in Toronto. It should be very exciting. And we're here to learn a lot more from Stephen today. And Stephen, I want to really thank you for coming. And you look like an amazing guy, really good person. And well, maybe you're not. We don't know. But I'm just joking. But you look like an amazing guy, and we're really happy to have you on the show today. So thank you very, very much for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, great. Now, Stephen, why don't you tell us about your background? I always ask this first, tell us a little bit about your life history, starting from when you were born, if you want to. That's
Yeah,
how
okay,
we'd like to go.
I'll kick things right off. So, born and raised in city of Toronto, from a young age, been always interested in urban environments, city building. So whether that's architecture, engineering, construction, tall buildings, really anything to do with cities. Did a undergrad at York University. Ended up going into marketing, which is actually still my full-time gig. But through my interest in city building, started up my website in 2020 during COVID, and also started sharing content on Twitter and LinkedIn. And I guess the work that I do now with 3D visualization has kind of grown into a side business of mine.
That's excellent. Really, really cool. Now, I read somewhere that so how did you so your undergrad, what did you study in your undergrad?
I went to York for environmental studies, but I really didn't do much
Hmm.
with that.
Well, that's okay. I mean, it's a great, fascinating topic, and it is definitely something of the future that we'll eventually have to think about it more and more and more. And that's where everybody's mindset is headed. And then, so how did you end up getting into what you're doing now? Did you take a marketing course, or did you just say, I'm going to do some marketing or something like that? Was it on the
Yes.
internet? Is it more internet based?
Yeah, so graduated from York, ended up working for a few startups, kind of got some marketing experience there, did a couple of certifications and learned as I went along. So that's how I guess ended up into marketing. But I guess the work that I do with 3D visualization, it definitely started off more as a passion project.
Right.
I've always been interested in real estate development, and I was always fascinated by visuals and renderings showcasing what cities might look like in the future. And
Right.
especially given the amount of development activity in the city of Toronto, it was really hard to actually find that information and find those visuals. So I just figured I'd create that myself. And that was kind of the genesis of the idea, starting from a point of passion.
That's excellent. And I read somewhere that you started off with cardboard models. Is that true?
This was way back. I guess this is before I learned any kind of CAD programs. I had to start off, I guess, in creative and inventive ways, but I guess that kind of formed the formwork for what I'm doing today.
Do you still have that model somewhere kicking around somewhere?
You know what? I don't, but it's a great memory when I look back on how far I've come.
That's excellent. Really nice. And so, like someone who didn't get into the construction industry or the development industry, you certainly sort of, through your own efforts and passion, and you really segued into the industry, which is hats off to you. And I'm really excited that you did that. So that's really cool. And so let me ask you a couple of questions about uh, where you get your information. How do you go to like there's all sorts of sites that tell us where the new projects are. Do you use a particular source? Like for us, when we're trying to network with people, we look at Urban Toronto as a good website to getting information. Do you use similar sites like that, or do you get the information from the city of Toronto directly? We'd really like to hear about that.
Yeah, so you brought up some great resources. I guess for the listeners who aren't aware, the City of Toronto has a very, I guess, transparent and open development application process. So as developers submit their plans to the city, they submit those through what's known as the City of Toronto's Application Information Center. So any kind of plans associated with those developments are actually available to the public. You can go in that portal and view the architectural plans, planning reports to really source that data. So that's essentially where I get the building information. Now, for things like residential unit data, locations. There are a lot of great third-party resources that track that. You named Urban Toronto, which is also a site that I visit quite frequently. But there are, of course, other data aggregates out there that compile similar information, but it really is a combination of multiple different sources.
And when do you log your model as do you know, where at what stage do you do it? Do you do it at say, when you submit an application? I would imagine you do it when it's approved. Is that correct, or I may be wrong? Can you
No, it's
speak?
really as soon as that application lands with the city. So even as early as the initial proposal stage, those will be added within the model.
I see. And do you keep track of all of these, like to see what's happening with the applications? Like, let's say, for example, something gets abandoned or doesn't go push ahead. How do you deal with sort of the realities of that?
As best I can, I would say, just given the amount of development happening in the city, there are changes to applications that are happening every single day. I do a little bit of that tracking, but thankfully there's a lot of great folks out there in the industry that kind of do that digging for me. They share that information either on forums or, Urban Toronto might cover the updates to that application. So that definitely takes a bit of the burden off me, but I do try to keep the model as, I guess, as up to date as I can.
Really nice, really nice. So, how far in I think I read an article somewhere that you are able to determine what Toronto might look like up until the year 2034. I don't know exactly where they got that year from, but what uh, can you comment on that? Like
So
how
there's
far
no,
how far are we looking into the future here?
yeah, so there's no, I guess, no concrete number. I guess that figure is more of a ballpark range, just given the amount of time it takes from initial application to completion. Of course, just given, I guess, the state of Toronto's real estate market over the past 2 years, give or take,
Yeah.
it's possible that number could get extended. And of course, there are larger projects where they have, multiple acres of property that may not be completed within a decade. It's usually the span of multiple decades, so that's also where that number may change. But I would say for most people, it's a good kind of estimate within the 10 to 15 year range, where you'll see most of the projects that are in the proposal stage at least completed in some capacity.
Yes. I'm gonna make a joke, and now it's because I want to be polite and everything, but it sounds like a writer's gimmick. It's typical. That's the typical media, right, Mike?
Well, that's the headline writer is supposed to draw you in, so you get the good information, the good education. So it worked.
Yeah, it worked. Yeah.
I have a couple of questions for Stephen. So, you start with cardboard boxes, right? Like that's what you have at your disposal, and you can start with that. But how did you educate yourself to a point where you can move it into the digital realm? Like, how did you learn how to do this 3D visualization?
That's a great question. Self-learned, right?
That's pretty much it. So there are a lot of great tools out there that either planners or architects use to model. I think the easiest one to kind of pick up is SketchUp, which is I guess the primary tool that I use today. So again, it's really a process of just learning as you go along. I've also implemented a few different tools to kind of improve my craft in terms of rendering and editing, but I guess the main tool set was self-taught.
Such a passion project. I mean, we're on the Zoom here with a gentleman who's literally written a book about Battle of the Skyscrapers. Like, this is something you just have always loved, like to tackle such a passion project in such great detail and depth. Like, it's impressive.
Mike commends you on your work.
I'm impressed.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So I must ask, so your full-time job is digital marketer?
Yes, that's right.
So how much time is devoted to this passionate, I'll call it a side hustle. That's what the kids are calling it these days. But like, how much of your day-to-day is spent on this project?
Yeah, it certainly depends on the time of year and how many ongoing projects I have. Thankfully, for the most part, managing both is quite doable. Yeah, there's certain periods of the year where there definitely is more work to do, not just updating the model, but also on the client side as well, because I do take on on projects, but I would say typically toward year end, that's when things get quite busy. A lot of developers are getting their applications in before the end of the year, and also in the spring, typically a lot of pre-construction launches happen during that time of year. So developers really try to get their marketing material prepared before then. But it's definitely a mixed bag. But so far, it's been doable, which is great.
Now you also provide services for developers too, right? Is that right? Like you've monetized this somewhat because you have all the models now, and I think if you go to your website, maybe you can start sharing your screen. It might be a good thing. Do you have your website handy or?
Yep, I've got it pulled up here now.
Yeah, great.
Oh,
Yeah, so if
perfect.
you go to products and services, um, Mike, he's doing 3D visualizations for developers, and he's got, I guess you can figure out exactly, visualize your impact in context with future development. So I guess people, if they want to say, hey, here's my building, it's in Toronto, downtown Toronto. What other developments are coming in the future? They want to know about that, I would imagine.
That's certainly it. So there's a few different clients that I work with. I would say the main clients are developers. And then within that work stream, there's two main applications. So one of them would be with planning reports and planning approvals. So if they're submitting documentation to the city and like a planning justification report, and they want to illustrate how say a 10-story height increase might look like in context with development surrounding them, they may require a 3D visualization or massing diagram to kind of showcase that impact. The second side of that is on the sales and marketing side. So if you ever go into a pre-construction sales center or look at some of the printed material, they may have a 3D map or visual within those pamphlets showcasing where that project is and what future development is happening around it. So those are the main two applications. Another application may be for a prospective purchaser of a condominium unit, and as you know, having a great view does add some value to that unit. But also knowing what developments may block that view in the future may be a great thing to know if you plan on investing in that unit over the long term, because that's often something that a real estate agent or a developer, they may not tell you that in advance.
Are you
I
saying
guess
that you've done work for homeowners too, or no?
yes, I have. So people will reach out saying, "Hey, look, I'm purchasing a south-facing unit on the 30th floor of a building at York and York and Front, so to say," and they may be asking, is my view of the CN Tower going to be blocked? And I'll produce a couple sets of images for them to kind of showcase what that view may look like in the coming years.
So developers hire you, and sometimes the homeowners hire you, and they may not buy as a result of what they find to some degree.
That's exactly it. And I also have worked with public sector clients as well. So I've completed a few different models for some municipalities outside of the city of Toronto. So to give it some context, many cities do not have 3D modeling capabilities, at least to this scale. So they'll also commission me to create custom builds for them, similar to the models that I have for Toronto.
Very cool. This is really amazing.
It's highly impressive. And now that I can I can visualize now how this would be, beneficial to a developer or somebody looking to buy a condominium or whatnot. This is incredible what you've done here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Nice. So let's get into what Toronto might look like in the near future. So this is really cool. I saw this one. That's a nice image.
Wow.
So do you have any of your 3D models available we can look at right now? Like you divide it in a few sections. So there's that's your downtown core.
Wow.
Can you tell me a little bit about what we're seeing here?
Yeah, so what we're looking at here is a aerial overview of development within the downtown core. So any of the projects that you see here that are highlighted in blue are currently under construction. Any projects highlighted in pink are either proposed or approved.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is typically, I guess, the hero shot that a lot of people will look at when they want to visualize just the scale of development in the city. Of course, within the downtown core, that's the area where you do have the highest concentration of development. You also have the tallest buildings, and it's a great kind of single image that you can show people to just visualize that scale of development and change that's coming to the city.
Now I see that is that Eglinton up at the top there?
The small cluster that we have up here is actually Yonge and St. Clair.
Oh, St. Clair. Yeah. Okay. So you don't so that's your other model takes care of Eglinton, I'm sure, like North York or something like that, or North Toronto. And then I see that there's a big cluster on the right side. That's the Port Industrial Lands. Is that correct?
Yep, so there's a few different clusters on the eastern side of downtown Toronto. So that's the East Bayfront area. You also have the Portlands, and you also have another cluster here at East Harbor. So those three clusters will essentially be emerging throughout the next several decades. Currently, there isn't much there. It's primarily industrial uses, but there is a wave of high-rise development coming there, and also you have a few subway stations coming along the Ontario line that will really intensify the area over the next several decades.
That sounds amazing. So where do you see the most interesting development happening in Toronto? If I were to say, hey, Stephen, where should I put my next condo? Where would what's the hottest area? It looks like it's on there's so many opportunities, but it looks like it's on the east side of the harbor there.
Yeah, so I guess starting off with the downtown core, I've just overlaid the subway stations on this map here. So
Okay.
the most impressive area from a I guess scale of development is definitely the downtown core. You can see areas along the eastern side of downtown Toronto where there isn't a lot of high-rise development currently, but there will be in the future. Other areas that are actually already kind of built up, but there is a lot more development in the pipeline are areas like the entertainment district and also Bloor Young. There are a number of high-rise developments going up there that are quite impressively tall. But a lot of people will not actually think about areas outside of the downtown core as areas of intensification. So I'll just bring up a couple images here just to showcase what's happening outside of the downtown core. So one of the most impressive
Perfect.
areas,
Before
uh,
you get to that, I just have one question about the downtown core for a second.
sure.
So how many, so I wrote a few books, Building Toronto Skyline, that's Toronto condominiums through the decades. And it sort of looks at the growth pattern of the condo market. Now we've had explosive growth recently, and but now we're in a big condo glut, and interest rates are down. The economy is not the greatest. We have this now tariff threat from uh, Mr. Trump, and so we're in a very kind of strange marketplace. A lot of people are pivoting to rental. So I did write my one book about building Toronto Skyline, but I also wrote another book called Battle of the Skyscrapers, Then and Now, and I have a Canadian chapter. And there are not a lot of super tall condos. So a super tall is classified as a skyscraper is 300 meters or more. How many of the applications do you have that are? Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Did you do this?
I did, yes.
Oh, wow. I think I saw that and I put it in my book. Sorry. I have to pay you for that.
All good, all good.
I can pay you for that. But I did use this. Yeah, that's amazing. So can just run us quickly through. I think I recognize. So there's one Sky Tower. Uh, that's where is that? That's at Yonge Street or no?
Yeah, that's at on the former Toronto Starlands at the base of Yonge
Yes.
Street.
And there's the one which is the trying to get completed right now. Uh, and I guess Sky Tower and the one is that Pinnacle that's doing Sky Tower?
That's correct.
Yeah, right. So though that's the race to the first super tall, and I guess Sky Tower will beat them out at some point, and it's pretty exciting. I'm glad you identified that. So is there anything else that's not here that's coming up that you're aware of?
Yeah, so I guess depending on who you ask, there may be an eighth building on this list. That's Concord Sky, which is currently under construction on the southeast corner of Yonge and Gerrard. So depending on who you ask and how they measure that building is either 299 meters or 300 meters. Of
Right.
course, if it's 300 meters, it is classified as a super tall skyscraper, but if it's 299 meters, it's technically not. Can you actually spot the difference between a meter with your naked eye? Probably not.
Mhm.
But I guess in terms of classification, it's how you measure that height. So if you're measuring it from, I guess, street level, it may be one measurement, but if you're measuring it from, I guess, the lowest point on one of the entrances, it may be another. So that's essentially why it's not shown here, although I may need to add it at some point, depending on how I guess, determine that official height measurement.
Yeah, and the just to put things in perspective, the Burj Khalifa is like over 800 meters, if I'm not mistaken. So,
Yeah,
but
it's 828 meters, if I recall correctly.
yeah, that's quite amazing. And then there's Jeddah Towers is going to be even higher than that. So, putting that in perspective, these those towers are dwarf these the ones in Toronto. And what I realized in my book is that, really it's about wealth and power. Uh, when you're building these skyscrapers, the people that are building them, it's all about wealth and power. And it's really interesting because it starts in the United States in New York City, Chicago, and then it traces its history or the wealth and power goes to Asia and then eventually the Middle East. And so it's quite interesting how people use skyscrapers as a demonstration of their wealth and power. So found it quite interesting. But thank you for showing me this. This is something that I definitely wanted to hear more about, and I hope you don't mind me using that image in my book. I'll make sure I give a shout out to you. Okay?
Definitely.
And all right, so continue on. You were heading over to Kingston Road, right?
Yeah, so I guess we'll take your viewers off to Scarborough and off to Eglinton East in an area known as the Golden
Oh,
Mile. So in terms of dramatic transformations, I would definitely say this is probably the top area to watch for over the next few decades. So
interesting.
for your viewers, we're looking at an image here
So
of
where exactly is that, Stephen?
yeah. So this is along Eglinton East, approximately at Warden, but this kind of stretch pretty much starts at Victoria Park, going eastward. So currently, this is predominantly industrial uses in strip malls. But as a result of the Eglinton Crosstown LRT opening up at some point, there have been a significant number of applications for this area for high-rise residential development. And so here I have the figures that it's well over 37,000 units and more than 75 towers. So
Wow.
why this area is so impressive is just because of how it looks like today, where there really aren't any high-rise buildings. And what you're really seeing is, I guess, the complete curation of a brand new neighborhood and urban center in the city of Toronto from the ground up, which is very unique.
Yeah,
If you look at areas like downtown Toronto, It's intensification on top of density. But in this case, there essentially is no density that exists here today.
It's all pink. So I guess that's why now I know where the writer got his 2034, because it's going to take until 2034 to build the Eglinton Crosstown LRT. That's a joke, guys. So,
Don't be so optimistic, Nick.
well, what can I say? But this is really cool. So if I'm an investor, I'd say, hey, maybe I should get a property right around this area because there's going to be some growth. I'm still may be able to buy something at a lower cost. But this is a good way to spot opportunities as well. I mean, I think you can tell by the amount of applications here that a lot of developers have been thinking about this area for a long time. Anyways, they know the growth is going to go there because of the LRT, so they bought plots of land and they developed this. They sent their applications in right away, so it looks amazing. Keep going, Stephen.
Yeah, so I guess another development hotspot that you want to keep your eyes on is actually Yonge and Steeles. I'm just going to find an image of that area here.
Wow.
So again, there are a few high-rise buildings in the area today, but nowhere near the scale of what's coming. So this intensification that you're seeing on Yonge Street, actually north of Finch Subway Station, is ahead of the Yonge Street North subway extension to Richmond Hill. So similar to what's happening at on Eglinton East in the Golden Mile, developers are anticipating this future growth, and they've submitted their applications already for the area. So as I have it here, over 25,000 units proposed in this area, and even towers upwards of 65 stories in an area where high-rise buildings aren't really exceeding 30 stories today. So this is a pretty dramatic transformation. This also includes the demolition of Centerpoint Mall, which is on the southwest corner of the construction, which is planned to be completely demolished for these new high-rise towers. So definitely another area that will be unrecognizable in the coming decades.
So just forgive me for it's been a while since I took a subway. So the Yonge line ends here.
It actually ends at Finch, and I'll pull up another visual here just so we can get our bearings on where this is. We're looking at Yonge Street from approximately Shepherd to Steeles Avenue. Finch is where the Yonge Street Line 1 currently terminates, but it will be extended north to Richmond Hill.
All the way to Richmond Hill. So they're anticipating that Steeles would be a great location for because there's going to be a Steeles subway station. They're going to say, hey, let's continue our development up north here. So this is really cool. This is amazing. So now if I was looking at it from an investor point of view, I would say this is already taken. Land up here is probably still very expensive. I like that Golden Mile area. That sounds even better. Scarborough is probably more manageable from a cost point of view, but this is really cool too. So keep going, Stephen. We're here at your leisure here. Go ahead, Mike. You had a question?
I want to just because listeners who aren't watching the video, I just want them to know the website is StephenVelasco.com, and Stephen's PH. So StephenVelasco.com. So open that up in your browser. Because I find this absolutely fascinating. And a quick anecdote, and then I wonder if Stephen takes requests. But I'm in South Etobicoke, and I take my kids to a park at the lake, and we look at the skyline. And we look at the, it's 2025 skyline that we see, of course, and I tell them what it looked like in the 80s, and I tell them what I used to see in the 1980s. But what I see with StephenVelasco.com is I can show them what it will look like in the future. Like, to me, this is a time machine, Nick. Like, this is unbelievable.
It is really nice. Yes. Amazing. So that's StephenVelasco.com. StephenVelasco.com.
You got it.
there's no misunderstanding.
Right.
So this is really exciting, Stephen. So why don't we look at Etobicoke Lakeshore?
Well, yeah, and I was going to ask again if
'Cause
tell me.
my family's from
Mhm.
New Toronto,
Okay.
so right where actually Mike live. Like I'm right around the corner from Mike. My family, my great grandfather's house is still on 6th Street. So
Wow. A couple of things, Stephen. Is one is that there's a lot of chatter about what's happening at like Park Lawn and Lakeshore, and we used to be a Mr. Christie factory, and there's a lot of talk of what that will look like. And then again, no pressure, but I'm naturally curious what's going to happen to the site of the current Cloverdale Mall, and I've kind of been reading about what might happen at Cloverdale Mall. So these are two different parts of South Etobicoke, but I'll leave it in your capable hands here.
you're sending them all over the place.
Well, they're not that far away from each other, but
Sure, let's cover it all. So Mike, you're mentioning Cloverdale Mall here.
right.
So that's this area, I guess, on the left-hand side of this image here. But
Wow.
essentially, plans are underway to level the mall to make use for, I guess, a new master plan community. So this will include new shops, new park space, commercial space, and of course, residential condominiums. Again, it's also a long-term vision that will be completed in phases, but the first phase of that project has already entered sales. So that's an area to watch for. So that's at Dundas and Highway 427.
Right.
I guess another area that's very close to Cloverdale Mall is, I guess, Etobicoke City Center or Eglinton City Center West, whatever you want to call it. But what we're looking at here is planned development in that area. So you can see there's a number of high-rise buildings surrounding Kipling Glow and Kipling Station along TTC Line 2.
Right.
So again, quite a significant number of units in the pipeline that will, really create a new skyline in the area.
Wow. Wow. Speaking of skylines, I find it amazing that here in the 2020s, there's Mimico has a skyline. Like it's just like you can see it from the Ronces Bridge, for example, and you're like, wow, look at that skyline. That's Mimico.
So there's Humber Bay Shores. So we all know that that's the kind of motel strip area. Is that right? Or the old motel strip? And where's Palace Pier?
Yep. So we're looking at an image facing, I guess, northwest toward Humber Bay Shores. Palace
There's
Pier
Pier
is on the
One.
right-hand side here, and
There's the old motel strip. Those are like all the other
Wow.
buildings that are currently already constructed there, right?
yeah. So everything that you see in gray is currently built or existing, and you can see that there's a number of quite tall
Yeah,
towers.
look at
Like
that.
you mentioned the
They
Christie site, which is in the back here.
Right.
they dwarf whatever's existing.
You were saying, Stephen,
Very
was it the Christie? Mr. Christie is in the back there?
Yeah, so most of these tall buildings here in pink
Right.
are part of that
Okay.
master plan. Again, it's a multi-phase development that will be completed over the next several decades, but there are quite a number of tall buildings that are proposed here.
Any public transit proposed for that area as we add all these residents?
Yes, so there is a new GO Transit station that is planned there that will, I guess, service the area.
Wow. Kudos to you, Stephen. This work that you've done here and the way we can visualize it in 3D, to me, again, it's like a time machine. This is incredible, right, Nick? This is just such a great resource.
Oh, it's amazing. You actually created something that a lot of people can use out there to see what's happening in the area, to see where you can actually see where the trends are too. So
Definitely.
what people are doing, you can identify some hot spots that are coming down the pipeline right away.
Absolutely. Yep. So, I mean, again, you can go through the list. We've got Mimico here, the Queensway, which is actually another area that you want to look out for over the next several years. Again, it's just currently a lot of big box retailers and strip malls, but there's a lot of residential units in the pipeline.
Wow.
This is just amazing stuff. Amazing.
Yeah, I guess another trend that I think your listeners might find fascinating is this
Sure, we got
idea of reimagining existing shopping malls throughout the city of Toronto. So what we're looking at is a an image of Sherway Gardens and planned developments surrounding the shopping mall. So as land in the city of Toronto becomes increasingly more valuable, a lot of developers and landowners are rethinking how they can increase value on some of the existing properties that they own. So in this case, shopping malls. So over the last 10, 15 years, with the rise of e-commerce and I guess changing consumer spending patterns, malls haven't been doing as well or have changed in terms of their prominence. And one of the ways that developers are kind of rethinking those properties is, building residential towers in the parking lots surrounding those malls. So that's what we're looking at here. Sherway Gardens, over 1,500 units in the pipeline. We can also spin over to
York.
Scarborough Town Center, which is another mall that there's a lot of planned developments surrounding that shopping center as well.
So what's the blue over there in Scarborough? Because I think I know what it is. Who's doing that one over there? Four Towers.
Yeah, so it's a rental development. The name is slipping my mind, but it is one of the larger
developments.
rental developments that's being built in the city.
Is it Atrio Developments? Atrio?
I can't recall the name, but it's
I think it is. I think it
yeah.
is because I remember the four towers they had at Scarborough Town Center. It looks about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is very exciting. So yeah, I think it's a good idea to, a lot of people like the concept of having, a shopping area right near their building. So people will say, hey, it's close to a mall. In many respects, people like that.
Absolutely. So this development pattern, we can quickly scroll over to other shopping malls that are seeing similar development
too.
Yes, so we have got, let me just scroll down here to Don Mills and Shepherd, so surrounding Fairview Mall. We've got Yorkdale Mall down here. And yeah, even outside of the city of Toronto, we're looking at, Markville Mall, Square One, even Hillcrest Mall. Like there's a number of similarly planned developments surrounding shopping malls. So this is another kind of trend to look out for in the next several decades.
So are you able to spot the next trend? What would you say? Is it the Golden Mile? Where's the best opportunity right now? I'm a developer and I say to you, Stephen, where's the trend happening? Something that maybe not be shown even here. Where's the most recent applications taking place? And maybe you can say, tell us. Is that something you can answer?
I'll try to. So I'll name a few. One of the areas that I guess people don't really think of when they think of development around transit stations is actually around GO Transit. So most people think of development in the city of Toronto surrounding subway stations, TTC subway stations, but there is actually a significant number of planned development proposals around these GO stations. So what we're looking at is development on the western side of Toronto, from I guess Bloor Street to north of St. Clair and Eglinton. But we're looking at a GO Transit corridor here. Of course, we have Up Express stations as well. But yeah, again, it's another way that developers are utilizing existing transit infrastructure and proposing new residential density surrounding those stations. So probably one trend to watch for.
Yeah, I see Dundas West, so that's like Junction area, right?
Yeah.
And then here's something interesting though, St. Clair and Old Weston Road. So who would go figure? I wouldn't know that. I mean, I guess I kind of would know that, but you miss the GO station. You think about the subway stations or the LRT, but GO, also GO, I guess you should consider. But that's really cool.
Yeah, and this is a trend that you're also seeing around other GO stations throughout the city, and utilizing again transit infrastructure wherever it exists.
Amazing.
Maybe you can move over to Vaughan, which is for your viewers, it's just another city immediately northwest of the city of Toronto proper. Um, I guess almost a decade ago now, the TTC Line 1 subway was extended up to Highway 7 in Vaughan to an area that's known as Vaughan Metropolitan Center. So there are a number of
Where is Highway 7 here?
Yep, so I'll just shift over to this map here. So Highway 7 is this street along the image here on the horizontal axis. We have a Highway 407 down here, Highway 400, and Jane Street cutting through the center there.
So
So
Mike, you have to be Italian to build over there. Sorry to interrupt, Stephen. Go ahead.
yeah, so again, there's a number of residential developments that are in the pipeline here. A number of towers are already under construction, but a number more are in the works. So I've got another visual here showcasing Vaughan's Skyline today, what's under construction and what's in the works. And there are even towers proposed here up to 72 stories or 74 stories that may be built one day. So again, another brand new Skyline coming to the Greater Toronto area.
Very cool. Very cool. We just need the economy to bring it back and the people, and we'll see what happens. Our condo market is having a rough time. It's a little bit sick, but it's going to get better, I think, hopefully in the next sometimes these things take years actually to recover. So we'll see. But this is really interesting, really interesting. I would never have thought that Vaughan would look like this in the future. So yeah, it's a great comparison. It's to see, and there's a few that are under construction. I guess the ones in blue right now, right?
Yep, number of towers that are going up there now, and a number that have just been built in the
Yeah.
last 5 years. Again, most of these high-rise buildings that you see here didn't exist a short while ago, so it's already
Really cool.
it's already started.
Wow.
Excellent. Very nice. Very nice.
This has been amazing.
So what have we not covered? I never saw Kingston Road. Kingston Road is a happening place, right?
Yeah, like I don't know if I have a real good image of Kingston Road here, but I guess it kind of starts somewhere down here, if I'm not mistaken, maybe further south. But along Kingston Road, there's definitely more mid-rise development, I would say there, rather than high-rise. Yeah, I think it's just maybe
You
off
capture any of it somewhere, or you
this
have
image here. Yeah, I don't know if I have an image of Kingston Road here, yeah, there are a number of mid-rise developments that are in the works there. Less
So
impressive, I'd say, than some of these areas here, but yeah, a lot of applications.
So are these all available to anyone who wants to see this on your website?
Yeah, it's all there, and it's organized by I guess neighborhood or region throughout the city, so it's quite easy to navigate. I don't have everything in here, but I do have most of the city of Toronto here already.
Can you just hover over future model Toronto so I can see? So you've got downtown core, midtown, North York, Scarborough, Etobicoke, East York, Danforth, York, West Toronto, and Vaughan. So, and then you have other areas. When you click on these things, more things come up, obviously, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, heading over to Midtown here, you get a look at certain pockets within Midtown, for example, like Yonge and Eglinton, Young Davisville, St. Clair,
Wow.
and then Bathurst and St. Clair, Avenue St. Clair, the list goes on.
Really cool. Really cool. And just go over back to, I want to just see in particular some of the services you offer for the developers so that they're aware of the things that you can do for them.
Yeah, so I've got the three main ones here. 3D visualization, again, geared more toward developers. 3D massing files, which is more toward, I guess, architects. And I got Content Viewfinder, which is, I guess, to people buying their first property or one of their properties to capture their views.
And do you have a lot of developers reaching out to you these days? Do you is this something that's becoming more and more, I guess, of a revenue stream for you?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I first started taking on paid work in 2021, and it's kind of just, I guess, grown from there. So I know the pre-construction market has been slow over the last 2 years, but because I've been doing more work, I haven't really been impacted by that yet. I think last year was my largest year for revenue, which has been great. So yeah, it's definitely still a growing process, but yeah, I'm looking to take on more projects in this upcoming year.
Well, that's fantastic. So, Stephen, I want to say this has been really, really educational for us. It's a great experience. It's definitely great if you're in the industry, you want to learn more about what's happening in Toronto. Just incredible what you're doing. Keep up the great work, and hopefully this will be more and more. Find some ways to make more money, I guess, on this, right?
Thanks, guys.
There's so many things that you can offer if you put your head together. So. Go ahead, Mike. You had something you want to say?
Well, I just want to thank Stephen for his time, and anyone who has any interest in this podcast should immediately go to stephenvelasco.com. What an incredible resource. I'm going to be showing everybody I know this website that I've now discovered. So, Stephen, just congrats to you and continued success. You've earned it.
You were a great guest, Stephen, and you really provided us a great episode today. And let's stay in touch. Let's keep in touch. Okay?
Likewise.
You're going to sue me now because I put your picture in the book.
No, because we just recorded an episode with him, so now it's all good. We've made amends.
Exactly.
But we really, really, really thank you for such a great episode today.
Thanks, guys.
And to the listenership, thank you for listening to Building Toronto's Skyline, a podcast exploring the current state of Toronto's condominium industry, proudly brought to you by Fusion Corp Developments, Inc. Please share, like, and subscribe. See you again in 2 weeks.
Thank you, guys.